The dawn of civilization. Primitive. Dangerous. Exciting. The handwriting is on the wall. If the human race is ever going to amount to anything, it needs
the most civilized caveman I have ever seen.
Look who's come out of his cave.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. This is James from Cave Dweller Music. I have my co-host Brendan with me, and today we are joined by Drew from the Michigan Grindcore band See You Next Tuesday. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Drew. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys asking. It's kind of fun how it panned out to be the such a short notice, but
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, if anyone who doesn't know, I emailed Drew last night, said, do you want to come on the podcast? Said, how about today? So yeah, it all played out very well.
Well, yeah, the funny thing is it didn't even get to me till this afternoon, because I guess you guys messaged us on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't personally use our Instagram. Like our drummer Jimmy handles that.
Okay.
You know, there's so much people like, you know, they get after us on the social media so much. So it's kind of like we want to have lives still. So we kind of split the duties, if you will. So I handle the Facebook pretty exclusively.
Okay.
So but yeah, I'm glad you ended up emailing us. That comes to me directly. So.
Oh, great. Good to know.
But yeah, thanks for having us on. It's super cool. I appreciate any chance we get to talk about the band and the music we do and stuff. So
awesome. Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know you and know the band, do you want to just tell people sort of what you do in the band and a little bit about the band itself?
Yeah, sure. I'm the guitarist primarily. I'm also, as far as the last record that we just put out, Distractions, this past February, I wrote and recorded all the instrumentation and stuff, and then our singer Fox did all the lyrics and vocals on the record. But all the production and stuff in the new record as well was all stuff that I did at my home studio. So kind of a jack of all trades, or at least try to be.
Hell yeah.
But as far as the band, we're See You Next Tuesday. We were around, formed in like 2004. We got picked up by Ferret Records in 2007. Put out 2 records, 2007 and 2008. Then we had a little rough go come 2010 and kind of disbanded for a while. And then, fast forward to like 2015, kind of got back together, got a couple show offers for like some cool festivals. We did this Beer and Brutal Fest where we got to work with a local brewery and a coffee shop actually in Pittsburgh, and made like a coffee beer. And then we played this big festival where every band that played had like their own custom beer and stuff. So that was super cool. And then we just basically did nothing, played a handful of shows in the span of like 5 years. And then, COVID happened and we got bored and life sucked for a really long time, and Distract was born from it. So
awesome. Yeah. That's great. I just wanted to tell you, by the way, that you were actually the first Grindcore CD I ever purchased.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's Parasite.
Okay.
I got into metal when I was like 13, and then when I was 15, that I had never really listened to Grindcore before, and I thought the album cover was really interesting, so I picked it up from a CD store or something like that, and I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Well, thank you. Yeah, artwork goes a long way when it comes to cover art. We've always tried to have something that stands out in some way, but also like, obviously projects what the record's about too,
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So,
and I think that captures it pretty accurately, and so does the current artwork or Distractions.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, a lot went into the Distractions artwork actually. We posted kind of like this collage of like the stages of the artwork, but it all kind of stemmed from my wife. So she's a photographer, and we hired this model that has alopecia, which means they don't have hair. Mm-hmm. And then we did some makeup and like the white contacts and stuff. Like took all these photos of her in the state park in the little town that I live here in Michigan. And then we printed those on these like giant foam 20 by 20 inch boards. And then our singer Chris did a bunch of painting over top of that. Then we scanned them in and did some digital stuff on top of that. So it was a fun process. And honestly, like the lyrical content for Distractions is all sort of based around the concept of like a conscience or like an internal voice, you know, someone that you battle with potentially. So like having the multiple layers to the artwork is also sort of kind of explains ourselves, or at least in weird artsy way, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I apologize, by the way, that my voice keeps cracking and stuff. I have really bad allergies.
Oh, I get it. I do too.
And so I live on an acre in the middle of nowhere, basically. And my grass is absurd. We had a week of rain, so I couldn't mow my lawn, and it just grew. So like I just have piles of grass everywhere throughout my yard currently. So it is what it is. I can barely talk.
I actually lost my voice almost completely a few months ago from allergies as well, so I know exactly what that's like.
It's wild, man. I feel like allergies are getting worse and worse every year.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I had the worst allergies like a few years ago. Like I'd be like totally like laid out, couldn't move, this and that, and then someone was like, "Oh, you should eat local honey." So I went and started finding apiaries and this and that, and I was like, sweet. So I started like eating local honey, and over the last few years, this is the first or second year that I haven't had to use Flonase or something like that, Claritin.
Oh wow! Huh. You said local honey. You said
local honey to you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because it introduces like antibodies or something.
It has all the pollens and the things that make that like, you know, that make you all like act, whatever it is, like your reactions, right? It's like people get watery eyes, this and that, you know, like get coughing, get sneezy. So then like the bees pollinate that stuff into their good honey, and then you eat it, and then your body like kind of just gets used to it after a while, and it's just like really
builds a tolerance to it.
It's not an instant thing, you know, but I know right now, like, you know, I haven't had a problem in a while, you know. Oh, but like people also grow out of allergies too. I don't know, but I believe
my allergies are terrible. Like I'm allergic to everything. I take an allergy pill, like a prescription one, even like every day, all year round. This time of year, I actually double up. I take a prescription one and an over-the-counter one.
Yeah, me too. I know exactly how you feel,
dude. It sucks, man.
It does.
I remember. Like my wife was like, I bought this organic laundry detergent from Trader Joe's, and like I was like, all right, cool, whatever. And then we, you know, as you do, wash your laundry, do your stuff, and then all of a sudden, like I'm sleeping at night, and I'm like, just my whole body's getting so incredibly itchy, and like my head, my face, my whole body, because the blankets are covered in this detergent, right? Still a little bit, and then like. All my clothes. I was like, for days, it was so miserable. Oh, and then I was like, I'm never buying this shit again.
Yeah, I get that. I was like that as a kid. Fabric softeners and stuff, certain fabrics. Yeah, it's a tough life being allergic to everything. Like some people don't get it. My wife is that way. She doesn't really have too many allergies. Like this time of year, you know, obviously everybody, because of, you know, it's spring. But aside from that, it's like I envy people that get to breathe this time of year. Like
there was I watched this documentary actually about allergies, and it was saying that they're increasing. Like the average number of like people born with allergies has massively increased in the last like 20 to 30 years.
I bet. You know, another thing too that has changed is like diets too. Like the amount of shitty food that everybody ingests increases our inability to fight off allergies, you know.
Right.
Like when we used to tour back in the day, I don't know if being that you're in San Diego, if you know, do you remember a band from Humboldt County They're called Slaughterhouse.
It sounds very familiar, but I don't know their music. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, no, it's all good. We used to play a bunch of shows with them all the time out that way. They were
Okay.
like this brutal, like death metal that like smoked a ton of weed and were super vegan.
Okay. Nice.
And that dude was convinced that like dairy is why people are have allergies. Lactose in general, like so many people are intolerant
Yeah,
of
I'm
of
one of them.
dairy. Yeah, exactly. And that's an allergy. Being intolerant of something is an allergy.
I guess so.
But like but like restricting the amount of stuff that you take in that you're intolerant of will heighten
Yes.
your ability to fend off stuff that you just breathe in, you know? So like if you start taking away stuff that you're allergic to eating wise, like my wife just recently did a an allergy test to find out what she is allergic to when she eats, you know. She
Right.
found out stuff like tomatoes, mushrooms,
Huh.
onions, cantaloupe, just weird random things. Obviously, like, you know, tomatoes and onions are in literally everything, but
Yeah.
so she started restricting those things from her diet, and man, it's like a game changer. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I recently did like a health kick thing myself because I got into kickboxing and changed my diet and stuff. And
Oh, good
since I
for
cut
you.
it, thank you. And since I cut out a lot of gluten, it changed a
Yeah.
lot of stuff for me. I guess I must have had like a smart, like subtle or slight allergy to it without even realizing.
Yeah, that's another one too that a lot of people have, but don't care enough to pay attention, you know, like
Right.
somebody that doesn't have severe allergies like don't
Mhm.
know that they could just cut one thing out of their life and have a better life. But
Right.
you know, that's what it is. So not
Exactly.
everybody suffers like we do, you know.
True. Um, we could do a whole podcast on this, but I do definitely want to have you promote your music a little more. So
Yeah, sure.
I wanted to ask, we get super sidetracked on this podcast.
Oh, all
Yeah,
Um,
good.
it's gonna happen again.
Definitely will be something random again too. So I kind of want to know, how did you manage to sort of come back together and put the album together after all these years? Was the chemistry still there? Did it feel pretty natural?
Honestly, it was just started with me. I've always been kind of the writer of the band. Like Parasite and Intervals. Well, I should say like Parasite, um, most of that I wrote like by myself and then like taught to the other dudes kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then like Intervals, we kind of wrote, you know, I wrote some songs while we're on tour, but then we also wrote some stuff together, like in the studio too. But for the most part, um, the bulk of the writing was me. You know, like I started the band, I named the band. It's always been kind of like my baby, you know what I mean? And
Gotcha.
yeah, so honestly, it just started with getting out of COVID, you know. Unfortunately, I'm somebody that has had a drinking problem more than one time in his life. And what I thought was controllable went totally in a different direction, you know, once COVID happened. Um, I'll be honest, so like I'm a mailman is my day job. And when COVID hit, I started working like 60 to 70 hour weeks.
No.
And my wife was in a profession that shut down. So she stayed home. And the way that we both coped was by drinking. And well, suffice it to say, you know, I'll spare you all the details, but on October 19th of 2020, I took my last drink of alcohol. So I'm coming up on a little over 2 years, 2.5 years ish now that I've had a drink. But
Congratulations.
Good for
hey,
you.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. And um yeah, so the writing of the record really was my distraction. That's how it started. That's where the name came from. Um like I worked a ton and coming into Christmas of 2020, you know, I was still working a shitload and it's Christmas time and Amazon is flowing and you know, everyone's sitting at home just ordering everything they can possibly buy.
Yep.
My wife was like, "You deserve something, you know, buy yourself a new guitar." And I started, I bought a guitar and had some studio stuff, and literally I was just messing around with like, recording some guitars and recorded some drums and stuff, and just playing around, and like, next thing you know, I'm writing a song.
Yeah.
And it was really just as like something to do. I'd get out of work, and instead of wanting to go next door to the store and grab a fifth of gin, I'd go into my studio and pick up my guitar and start jamming and stuff, and just one thing led to another. I wrote a song, and I sent it to the other three dudes, because we all still kept in touch. We weren't necessarily active at the time, especially because coming out of COVID, no one did shit,
Mhm.
But we still kept in touch, So I sent them all the song. The first one I wrote was the "What a Funny Girl You Used to Be," and
That's track 2, right?
yeah, yep. And so yeah, that was actually the first song that I wrote. And yeah, then like a month later or so, I wrote This Happy Madness, and then maybe another month after that. And mind you, like, I'm still working, and I like have a life and stuff too. So like I really was just I was writing when I needed to do something, when I needed to keep my brain active type of thing. So I'd, go into my studio and write. And I was churning out some cool songs and stuff. So yeah, so maybe I think the fourth song I wrote was "Hey Look No Crying," and at that point the rest of the guys were like, "Holy shit, Drew's writing a record." So yeah, and like I said, I have a studio at my house, so I was recording everything as I'm writing it. That whole record was compiled over the course of a year and a half. Like there's stuff on that record that was recorded a year and a half prior to, or almost 2 years prior to you guys even hearing it. So
Wow.
yeah, it's just because it was something that over time I just kept building and building on until it was like, a record. So, but yeah, that's basically how it came about. It was just kind of came out of nowhere, really.
So you said you have a home studio. Before you were working on this album, were you recording other stuff? Like, do you have other projects or?
Um, I've been in a bunch of different stuff. So I guess the main thing that I always kind of played around with in my studio, I did a lot of electronic music.
Cool.
Kind of like industrial, dubstepy type of stuff. I've always been big into that kind of music, just synthesizers in general.
Nice.
And then honestly, man, I don't know what it was. I think it was just the house that I live in now. My wife and I bought back in 2017, and it's kind of like the house that we plan to be in for a while, kind of thing. And I always wanted to have a studio at my house, and this house has like 2 little extra rooms.
Nice.
And she took one for her like studio. She does photography and she does stained glass and stuff. And then in my room I did a studio. So, I mean, it's nothing crazy, you know what I mean? Like it's a home studio. It's it's nothing glamorous, don't get me wrong. But fortunately, like with how music production is in 2020 or in 2023 even, like you don't need a lot to get a good sounding, you know what I mean? You could do a lot with a little. So
Definitely.
Plus I've been doing it for a long time, you know what I mean? Like just music production in general. Like it's a bit of an art, but it's still an engineering aspect. So it's like, you can simply learn how to do stuff, you know what I mean? Like
right.
Like there's, and if you've been doing something like that for 10 years, somewhat of what to do, but a lot of it's fun experimenting too, that's what makes sound design so cool. That's why I've always been intrigued by electronic music, because a lot of it is just like, ooh, what happens if I distort this,
Right.
Yeah.
Just having fun.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was going to ask you because you were away for a while, obviously, like not playing live, and then you came back, and now you're touring again. Have you
Hmm.
noticed any real difference in the scene, like as far as live shows go? Because we've had quite a few people come on the show saying the last few years the energy is not as high as it was, and people aren't as engaged as they used to be. Is that something you've picked up on as well?
Um, Not necessarily. I don't. It's hard to say. Honestly, we haven't been like super active.
Mhm.
I think since we've put the record out.
Right.
Well, even prior to the record, I mean, we've only played maybe 10 shows
Okay.
in the last like 6 months. Unfortunately, like we're all old. Like I'm 40. We're a band from 2004.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, so it's like, we're coming up next year is our 20th anniversary of being a band.
That's
That's
awesome.
Oh
crazy.
wow.
Yeah, so like unfortunately, I'm a mailman. Our drummer works for Chase Bank. Our singer is a business owner. Like we have obligations that we can't just jump and tour.
Hmm.
Of course.
We hope to do more. Obviously, we want to get to the West Coast, and try to get out there and play this new stuff for some fans of ours. But it'll come with time. Unfortunately, we got to make ends meet and stuff, and be, you know, do all what we need to do to make that type of thing happen. It's
Mhm.
it's we're not in our 20s anymore. We're like, that's what I do. Like when I was
Yeah.
20, when I was 25 and touring with See Next Tuesday, like that was my job. Like I
Right.
got home from a 30-day tour and I made $400 and I got a bunch of pizza rolls and lived for a couple weeks and then went back on tour. So
Right. Musician
but
life.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, as far as the shows, no, I mean, I feel like we've had a lot of high energy at our shows.
That's great.
Yeah, I think it's partly just like the nostalgia too. There's a lot of bands that are coming back,
Mhm.
and these diehard fans that had for the past 10 years been like, oh, I would kill fucking my next 10 unborn children for a new Botch song. And
Right.
then, guess what? You got a new Botch song. You know what I mean? So
Of
it's like,
course. Yeah.
yeah, not that we're anywhere near the the popularity that Botch was, but I mean, we still had a fan base of people that liked weird, fast, fucking techie grindcore, and
Right.
it's nice because a lot of those fans from yesteryears are just super stoked on us being back in general. So
Hell yeah.
it's been pretty sweet, man. Honestly, like the feedback we've had, the turnout at our shows, for being this like I said, we're not a deathcore band, or we're not Suicide Silence.
Right.
Like we're a pretty niche genre is what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be like,
Yeah.
oh, poor us. We chose this.
Right.
This is what my brain spits out, like it or not. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, for being a niche band, playing some wacky tunes, like yeah, the fans we have are really, really diehard, and I couldn't be happier. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
It's
Definitely.
it's incredible the support people have shown us, especially with the reaction to distractions. It's been incredibly, overwhelmingly amazing the response to it. So
Yeah.
Hell
I've
yeah.
seen basically nothing but praise for it online. So congratulations.
oh well, thank you. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. Honestly, I haven't heard much bad. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's people that don't like it,
Yeah. I mean,
but
definitely. It's a lot of
It's
people
gonna
do
but
not
happen.
we
like the style of
but we
music.
we also talked about that before you hit record. It's like
Yes.
I feel the temperament of the internet right now, especially in like the smaller metal music communities, or just smaller music communities in general. Like there's not a lot of hate. If you don't like something, it's almost more of a commonality that people will just shut their fucking mouth and talk about what they do like. And
Right.
it's really awesome to see that the internet is finally taking that turn, you know, because there's so much shit out there, you know. I don't want to bring up politics by any means, because you told me not to, and I'm not going to. But but with all of those ideologies that people are spewing out at each other, I think it's really respectful that people are kind of turning a positive note to their disagreements with metal, except for deathcore. People fucking hate on deathcore for no reason, even though it's the most popular genre. Like,
extreme
as far, you know what I mean? Yeah, like the bands that are quote unquote deathcore are the fucking ones that are out there making money, you know? So
right.
I don't care. You call us whatever you want if I can cash those checks, you know what I mean?
Right.
Hell yeah,
man. We would tour then.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone who's listening, who was curious what we were talking about before we started recording, we were basically saying that we don't understand people that go out of their way to write negative or say negative things about bands.
Right.
Our perspective on this as a site is that there's so much good music that we don't have enough time to cover even a fraction of it. Why would we waste our time shitting on something we don't like?
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
There's really no point to it.
No.
And like you said, there's so much good music out there, and it's impossible for every person that loves music to discover every band that they would even like. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
There's so many bands out there on Spotify that get 30 monthly listeners that are some of my favorite bands.
Right. I've had a minor existential crisis about this before. Like, I would never hear all of the music I want to hear in my life.
No, I know, it's crazy. Yeah, so why would anyone want to take the time to be an asshole and put a band down and take their potential ability to gain a new fan or have someone else come to their show? Why would anyone want to jeopardize that? It's just stupid.
Right.
Music is the one thing that we should all agree is awesome, and just fucking support it no matter what. Like, you know what? Knock Loose played Coachella, and it's everywhere, and people are freaking out about it. And guess what? They should. It's fucking awesome. If I was in Knock Loose and got to play Coachella, I would fucking have a nonstop boner for the rest of my life.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Good for them. Like,
hell yeah, man.
I don't care if you don't like Brian Garris's vocals. Guess what? A lot of fucking people do.
Right. Obviously, enough people to have them at Coachella.
And at the same time, their songs are hard as fuck. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, man.
So whatever.
They're an awesome band.
Yeah,
I love that band.
It's like a duality or a contradictory sort of mindset where people are like, oh man, metal gets marginalized, and it sucks that we'll never be as successful as pop singers. But then whenever a metal band actually breaks out of that mold, people put them down, tell them they're sold out. I'm like, well, what do you want? Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't say well, the mainstream keeps us down, and then when people actually start breaking into it, you just shit on them. It's just a stupid.
Yeah,
sweet.
You know,
my favorite band's not playing in a basement anymore. Sweet.
Yeah. Here's another really strange juxtaposition on it is so we, I personally listen to a lot of grindcore music, right? Like, that's my personal genre. Some of my favorite bands are some, Rotten Sound, Regurgitate, Nasum, Last Days of Humanity. That's the stuff that I listen to frequently. I don't necessarily spit that type of music out, but that's also because I grew up. Some of the first extreme music I got into was the Dillinger Escape Plan and Coalesce and Number 12 Looks Like You and the Sawtooth Grin. So I grew up with this wackiness in my blood. But if you think about grindcore, we get called fake grind by these crust grind bands. There's this band in Detroit. I'm not going to name their name, but there's a grindcore band in Detroit that like we were just talking about. Why go out of your way to do something shitty or talk shit on another band? But we were playing a show down in Ohio, and on the flyer it said "See you next Tuesday," and underneath it said "Michigan Grindcore Legends." Whatever. I didn't make the flyer. That's what they put on there. And this band from Detroit reposts that flyer and is like, "False grind. we need to stop this right now, and they just started trying to like gatekeep us from being called grindcore. And it's like, and it's just like, grindcore is one of those genres where people think that if you don't sound like Napalm Death, it's not grindcore. Right. Like, I understand the roots. I understand, that the DIY mindset of grindcore, it's like an extreme version of punk,
Right.
but to me, it still has that, just because I want to take it in a different direction. Like, I choose to do a more techie aspect and incorporate, jazz chords and stuff that I would hear from a Dillinger Escape Plan song.
Right.
And it's just strange to me that some people out there would say that that's not grindcore anymore. Because what? I added a breakdown to a grindcore song. Well, guess what? Hardcore has breakdowns in it.
Right.
Like the core of grindcore. It's just like, okay, you have a metal band, they're metal. You add a breakdown, it's metalcore. You have a death metal band, they're death metal. If you add a breakdown, it's deathcore. But you have a grindcore band that adds a breakdown, they're not grindcore anymore. You know what I mean? So it's one of those like silly things where it's like, out of all these niche genres out there, all these subgenres of metal, it's like grindcore is those one that's like, there's so many bands that are doing some really fucking cool things within that genre, especially like the cyber grind stuff, like that.
Yeah, that's cool stuff.
That Chop 7 Times dude, and like Thought Crime, stuff like that. Like, there's these bands that are breaking out and doing a new version of grindcore, and I applaud it. You know what I mean? Like, we should all applaud it. We should all applaud anybody for doing something new and different in any genre, because like, you don't want every band to sound like Black Dahlia Murder. Is the Black Dahlia Murder great? Sorry, I brought them up because obviously today's Trevor's 1 year, right?
Is it? Oh man,
it is. Yeah,
I didn't even realize that came so quickly,
dude. I know. Holy shit, man!
That one hit me hard. That was a sad day,
dude. I one of the first shows that See Next Tuesday played. I'm gonna totally segue off of what we're talking about.
Totally fine.
Cool, man.
One of the first shows we ever played, we got offered to play in this fest called Bottle Rocket Fest, and it was like 2004. So like, we weren't even playing the Summer Sampler stuff yet. We were still doing like the Twat EP stuff. So super, super early into our career. And we played a show with the Black Dahlia Murder, and they were like kids, just our age. You know what I mean? Like, this was also one of their very first shows. And well, not very first, because I think they had been around for like a few years at that point, I think. But when did their first record come out? 2002 or 2001? I don't remember. Or was it later than that? I could be totally crazy.
Let's see. I actually can't remember. Let's see right now. It loads. It was 2003 was their first full length, but their first EP was 2001.
2001. Okay, yeah. So this was 2004. So they just wrote a record. They just released their first record. But yeah, that was like the first time we played with them. And it's crazy just being there, seeing them like as kids, and then, like a couple years later, because really, within that few years, they became like the biggest metal band to be in existence, well, not in existence, but you know what I mean? Like, they're an upper echelon metal band at that point, so it's super cool to just see that and kind of be part of that, being in Michigan and the scene in Michigan and stuff like that. We used to, the guitar player lived next door to one of the dudes from Black Dahlia, so we'd be over there hanging out, and next door Black Dahlia Murder was practicing in the basement of the house next door. It's crazy. Yeah, it's fucked up, but I mean, his whole story, it's terrible.
I know, it really was. But I mean, for me, the biggest loss in him wasn't obviously his music as well, but it was his attitude towards the underground scene.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And like just the fact that no matter how big his band got, he still went out of his way to find and promote smaller bands that were starting out type thing. And he's like, I've been there, you know, I know what it's like, so I'm gonna help wherever I can. And he would like,
And you know, the rest of the members are that way too. The Alan Cassidy, their drummer, I mean, he comes to every show we play in Michigan.
that's awesome.
We played a little house show in his garage. We were trying to like get some footage for a music video, so we did this little house show in Detroit. And yeah, if you see the This Happy Madness video, some of the footage from that video is from that house. But yeah, Alan came out and it was crazy, just being like, "You're in Black Dahlia Murder. And you're in this garage with like 60 people watching this shitty little grindcore band." So
that's awesome.
But yeah, man, it's crazy. All those dudes, though. I mean, they're the type of people. If you go to a show in Detroit, you know, and it's an awesome show, you'll more than likely see one of those dudes for sure.
Very cool. I'm very frustrated because on Saturday night there's a local music venue that I'm at all the time on weekends seeing shows, and apparently on Saturday night Keanu Reeves spent the whole night there watching a local band play.
Oh wow!
That's sweet.
I was like, God damn it! The weekend I don't
man, that'd have been fun. That'd have been fun to hang out with Keanu himself.
Yeah, man.
I just love like what a down to earth dude he is. Like the fact like he goes to a bar in San, like, you know, like a venue like that in San Diego to see a band, and he hangs out the whole night and like sees everyone and stuff.
Yeah. We were in San Diego one time, and our singer, obviously this is a while ago because Robin Williams was still alive, but we went to a GameStop to pick up some video game that had just came out. I can't remember what it was at this point, but fucking Robin Williams was there just buying a game, you know. It's just weird, you know. It's just like, you know, they're people too. They also play video games, but you see him and you're like, I know who that is.
Right. It is weird because we kind of put people on this pedestal where we don't think of them as people anymore, and they obviously still live lives. Like they do the same things we do. Not everything. They still
poop. They still eat food and then poop it out, man. Like that's just because you're rich doesn't mean you don't. But yeah, it's strange.
Yeah.
Especially when you get to like that level, you know what I mean? Like,
right, exactly.
Like going back to the whole thing about Knocked Loose at Coachella, you know, like the headline actually reads, Billie Eilish watched Knocked Loose at Coachella. You know what I mean? Like nobody cares about Knocked Loose at Coachella. They care that Billie Eilish went arf arf on the side stage during Knocked Loose at Coachella.
The one thing about that though is that you'll probably get all these people that love Billie Eilish being like, who's this band she's listening to, and then check them out, which is
right.
You know, it's
that's
like
awesome.
Any exposure in that sense is a good thing in my opinion.
And that's that's what we need. You know, I don't remember. Man, I was just flipping through like reels, you know, on the internet where you just flip through reels and stuff. I came across somebody that was talking about, you know, it was like a documentary or something about gatekeepers. You know how it's like name three bands or name three songs of the shirt you listen to, right?
Right.
Oh yeah.
And they came across somebody that was like, you know what? I don't care if you don't know the name of the band. Like, they told a story that they were walking through a store and saw a cool shirt and bought it just based on the fact that the shirt was cool, right? And later on, they found out that it was like a Motorhead shirt and ended up listening to Motorhead, you know. And it's like they didn't know right away that they bought the shirt what the band sounded like, but they learned about the band because the shirt was cool. Same how you learned about See You Next Tuesday because you looked at the artwork and went, that's cool art. I'm going to buy that. That's a win. No one should be upset about that. That's a win.
I had this exact discussion in a Facebook group the other day about this, saying like, why do you care if someone wears a shirt of a band they don't listen to? Anyone who sees that shirt is like, that's free exposure for that band. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, that band should be happy that people are buying merchandise, one, and two,
I will
billboard.
I will gladly send a See You Next Tuesday shirt to Kim Kardashian. You're listening, Kim. Just wear it. I don't care. I don't care if you like us or not.
She chews every episode.
You know what I mean? Like if one more person was watching that show and saw a Cannibal Corpse shirt on Kim Kardashian or whatever Kardashian was wearing, a fucking Cannibal Corpse shirt. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
right.
if one new person was like, "Ooh, what's this?" Go to Spotify and listen to "Fucked with a Knife" and go, "This is what I want to do for my life." You know what I mean? Like, awesome. We got another death metal fan in the group. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like people were shit. You know that show, Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How people were shitting on the fact that like a bunch of new people started listening to Metallica because it was on the show. And one, like, gatekeeping one of the most successful rock bands in human history is hilarious. Like, and two, you should be happy. You know, it's like massive exposure to a whole new generation of listeners that have probably never heard of it before. That are now
and then
discovering rock and metal.
Right.
I know. I have a well, at the time that came out, she was younger, but you know, I have a stepdaughter. And at the time she was 13, and I remember like I was practicing or writing or something in my studio, and she comes in there and asks me like, "Hey, do you know how to play this song Master of Puppets?" I'm like, "Yeah, I learned it when I was 11." And I played it, and she was like, "Whoa, no way." You know, like for once she was impressed. I mean, like, mind you, Harper's like the most normal girl ever, like does like volleyball and swimming and stuff. So it's like for her to come over and like be interested in anything related to guitar, you know, like, again, that's a win.
Exactly.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, obviously Metallica's fine. Like, they didn't need the extra money. It would have been cooler if it was something, you know, it would have been a way cooler story if like Stranger Things reached out to like, you know, a newer band or a smaller band or something. But you know, it is what it is. Metallica's still Metallica. You know, good on those kids for now knowing what Metallica is.
I mean, the one thing in their defense is it had to be an '80s band because it's set like 40 years ago.
Oh yeah. That's true. That's true.
But they could have picked something more underground. But yes, but I mean, and if that like show inspires like one more person to learn guitar, that's awesome. You know what I mean? Like that's
hell yeah,
a good
man.
thing.
Or the drums or sing or whatever.
Yeah. So there was a scenario that really irritated me, and I actually commented on this dude's comment. You know the band, man, I was planning to talk about this, and now I've Ghoul.
Ghoul. Ghoul.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar, but go ahead.
Give me 1 second. I swear to God, that was the name. Yeah, Ghoul. So Ghoul. They're like death thrash, grindcore type thing. They all wear like sacks over their heads. They kind of have like costumey stuff, really cool cartoon album covers. They're a really fun band. But that rapper dude, Lil Nas X, I'm sure you've heard his name. It's all over the media and stuff. He was wearing one of their shirts like out in public, and he got photographed by the press, and so they got like their shirt all over the media, which that's friggin' awesome in my opinion. And they posted about it, and this dude in the comments was like, "Oh, great, another metal band like sucking up to the pop industry for attention. Like, you guys are such sellouts." I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about, dude?" Like, as if you wouldn't be stoked if your band was like worn by a really famous like pop, like, you know, cultural icon right now.
It's like people getting mad, like you like wear the band shirt to the band you're seeing.
Yeah, what? That's so weird. Showing support,
right? You know, it's like, how stoked would you be, like, you know, if you like playing some music and then you see a bunch of "See You Next Tuesday" shirts or merch out there? I think that'd be fucking awesome for you, right?
Especially now, like coming back after 15 years and seeing these people like break out their "See You Next Tuesday" shirts from yesteryears. You know, like,
that's cool.
It's crazy. We just did like some shows out in the East Coast. Played St. Vitus and stuff like that, and you know, it's crazy seeing these people with these shirt designs from like all these different tours. One of my favorites I forgot that we did this shirt. We did a tour with the Red Chord and Through the Eyes of the Dead back in like 2008.
Nice.
And we did this shirt, and it says, "I went and saw the Red Chord," and it had their logo, and all I got was this shitty "See You Next Tuesday" shirt. And somebody at our show at Rochester, New York was wearing that shirt, and I was like, fucking A.
That's cool. So funny.
I did just notice we're sort of running out of time, and I would love to keep talking about this, but we had a couple of questions we wanted to ask before we had to wrap up.
Absolutely.
Brendan, Do you want to? I know you have a couple you had lined up.
Yeah. So, you know, hearing your band and listening to it, and then like, you know, reading all these like wild song titles and whatnot. You know, like good Christians don't get jiggy with it until after marriage and whatnot, right? So it
Sure.
reminded me of a band, Curl Up and Die, you know,
Okay.
and then so I was like coming up with all these wild names. Like, do you have any like botched ones that like just didn't make the cut?
So honestly, Parasite's title theme were all a nod to pop culture.
All right.
All of the song titles, well, all the longer ones, there's like the Paganotrophy and Paraphilia, those are not related to this story, but all the longer song titles are all quotes from TV shows.
No shit. All right.
Yeah, so like good Christians don't get jiggy with it until after marriage was or I guess movies too, but just movies and TV and stuff in general. But that came from the movie Saved. Like where Macaulay Culkin's in a wheelchair and he's in like the Christian camp or Christian school. I don't know if you've seen that
All
movie,
right.
but it's really funny. And then like, honey, I've never had sex that wasn't awkward. That's a line from an episode of this TV show called what is it? Shoot, the Odd something. Yeah, I was thinking Fairly Odd Parents, but it's not that one. I'll have to get back to you on that one. But
Yeah.
I can't think of what it's from. But we sample some of that stuff when we play live. We always have, like, over the years. Oh, and like Before I Die, I'm gonna fuck me a fish. That's from an
Yeah.
episode of Mr. Show with Bob and Dave.
Oh yeah, dude, I loved that show back in the day.
Oh,
Great
yeah.
show.
There's so many skits I've got memorized from that shit. It's just ingrained in me.
Yeah, so that one, you know, if you go back and watch it, there's the episode where they're stranded on a boat.
Yep.
And there's a point where David Cross gives this speech and he says, you know, before I die, I'm gonna fuck me a fish. But yeah, it's just one of those things, man, where I just when I wrote the song, I don't write lyrics at all. I've never been a lyricist. I just my brain doesn't compute emotion that way.
Gotcha.
So like I put my emotion into the music, you know. So when Chris wrote the lyrics to songs, they have nothing to do with the titles. Like those songs on Parasite have nothing to do with the lyrics.
Right.
But you know, but that's just it. You know, I wrote the song, so I always felt like I got to name it. But then I let him name all the Intervals songs. All the song titles from Intervals are based on the lyrics. And then for Distractions, I named all of the songs on Distractions as well, which all have a theme that I haven't given out, but nobody's guessed yet. So I'm just going to let that one keep rolling. I've talked about it in a couple podcasts, but nobody's seemed to connect the dots on where they all came from yet, but eventually somebody will.
Yeah.
Don't hurt yourself thinking about
it.
No,
I'm not. I'm looking at. Well, I was like looking at them all, and I'm just like these are hilarious. Like you know, like it's just like that's what, like I said, it reminded me of Curl Up and Die. They had these wild names, like, you know, On the Run from Johnny Law, and It Ain't No Trip to Cleveland, and you know, Kissing You is like licking an ashtray, and all that kind of just weird random shit. You know, like,
there's a band. The name of the band escapes me, but I was listening to their record the other day, and one of the songs is called "I Need Saturday Off to Play a Teenager's Basement." I'm like, that's too real.
There's this band that Brendan actually put me onto that has hilarious song titles as well, called Bro Job.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Jesus, yeah.
I've seen their antics on the internet. They seem like some fun bunch of dudes.
Right.
Yeah.
They like to they razz us every once in a while on some posts.
Oh really?
I'll see them commenting on stuff of ours.
They have a song title that makes me laugh every time I hear it. That's "Talk Shit, Get Kissed."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's funny. Good stuff. What
Any
else you
others,
got
Brendan?
for me?
I was gonna say, well, what's your favorite songs to play live?
My favorite song, like overall.
Or like
Um,
do you have like a set of them, or like like 3 or 4 that you just like I gotta play these every night?
um, well, I'd like to be playing more distraction stuff. Obviously, that's the newest for me, so it's like what I'm most passionate about right now. These shows that we got coming up next week, we're doing like some Midwest dates, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Illinois. And we're playing I'll Never Be the Same, track 6 off of Distractions. And it'll be the first time we get to play that live. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh yeah.
Other than that, like there's a couple songs on intervals that I just love playing live.
Mm-hmm.
She Once Said I Was a Romantic is one of my favorites. And the 11/22/07 is another one that's just super fun to play, and it's got the big whammy dive in the middle of the song and stuff. So I'd have to say those two songs from yesteryears. I I hate to say it, but like the Parasite stuff, by the time I even recorded those songs, I had been playing them for years. And like I don't necessarily. I could probably be okay with not playing those every night. But I
Yeah.
get it that people like that record the best. That's the one that kind of got us our name. So, I'm not gonna not play those songs, but
Right.
they're fun, playing those songs. I play them different now though too. That's the other thing. It's like I don't play those songs exactly the way I used to. I kind of adapted them to how I now play.
Okay.
So they're a little different. I try to spice it up to keep myself entertained with playing them. Because I feel like if I just did it exactly the way that we're on the record, 15 fucking years ago, 16
Right.
years at this point, yeah, like it just doesn't have the same joie de vivre to me. So yeah, I definitely spice it up by playing them a little different nowadays. But yeah.
Hell yeah. Where were your favorite cities to play on your recent tour?
Well, we only played a handful of cities. I'd have to say when we played St. Vitus in Brooklyn was definitely one of the better shows. Awesome
Yeah.
experience in general, really awesome venues. It's like a bucket list venue to play.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
St. Vitus wasn't open when we played there before, or when we were touring before. And the whole time we're on hiatus, you start seeing that name pop up because it became like the premier venue. So yeah, like I said, we haven't played a ton of shows lately. I mean, to go back in time, we played, we toured a good part of the world. I'd say I had some of the most fun experiences in cities like Tijuana, Mexico.
Nice.
Hell
It's
yeah.
just a wacky time there.
My backyard.
Yeah, exactly. Or just Mexico in general. We did a 4-day tour down there. Did like Mexico City and Aguascalientes and San Luis Potosi and a few other cities. I mean, it's just cool to see that kind of culture and stuff. And then we did some stuff out in Europe and stuff as well. And my last name is Slavik, which is Czechoslovakian. So it was really cool to visit Prague. Back in like 2008, we got to do a big European tour. And I got to see Prague for the first time, so that was pretty cool. Except for the fact that I ordered a pepperoni pizza and it was salami instead of pepperoni. I thought that was weird.
I like salami on pizza. It's not bad.
No way, dude. Nope,
A little
not for me.
honey, some fucking. That's good.
All right, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing.
Oh man, yeah. I used to work at a pizza restaurant. That was fun. Good little.
Nice.
That was like right before COVID. Good times.
Oh yeah, I got a pizza tattoo.
Nice. Well, I got a pizza question for you.
Okay.
Is Detroit style pizza everywhere in Michigan?
There's a chain around here called Jets that's basically everywhere in Michigan. Obviously, there's some buttfuck nowhere towns in Michigan, but Jets does a very good Detroit style deep dish. So, so yeah. Hey, have you ever been up to? You live in San Diego, right? Have you ever been
Yeah,
up in San Jose?
I have been up to San Jose. Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of really great pizza, one of the best pizzas I've ever had in my entire life was something that was shown to me by the guys in Arsonists Get All the Girls.
Oh, I remember
Is
that band.
Yeah, up in San Jose, it's a place called Pizza My Heart. And it is just like your kind of like thin style, New York style pizza on the West
Mhm.
Coast vibe, So
Yeah.
really, really excellent pizza.
Have you ever been to Portland or anywhere in like Oregon and had sizzle pie?
Oh yeah. What's it called?
Sizzle pie?
I don't think so. No.
They're really cool. They're like a metal and punk themed pizza place.
Oh,
So they
awesome.
have like parody shirts based on famous albums and shirts from like metal bands. So they have they have a death one, which is really cool to see. And
Nice.
it's like got a pizza slices to the Grim Reaper and stuff, and like in the logo.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
it's like the Death logo, but altered to be their logo. They have like a Sabbath based one and stuff, but and they play like they have a jukebox that plays metal music, like all types, like even extreme stuff in the actual pizza place, which is really cool.
Oh,
But
nice.
they have fantastic thin sliced pizza and honestly the best salad I've ever had in my entire life.
Oh,
And
nice.
you can get like a slice of pizza like the size of a plate plus a whole salad that's also like half a plate for like $11, or at least it was
Oh,
when I was there
wow.
last.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good stuff.
That's hard to find nowadays, man.
Oh yeah. Brendan, you got any
Dang.
more?
No, we're good. We're good.
Cool. Well, I have two more things before we finish up then. So one is you
Sure.
said you had something that was coming up. It's going to be released after this is recorded, but before it drops, that you wanted to mention.
Oh, yeah. So on our last run that we did with Bandit, we played at this really cool venue in outside of Pittsburgh called Preserving Underground, which is like this church that they turned into a record store, and in the basement is a venue, really cool venue. So anyway, this guy named Blake reached out to us and said, "Hey, are you have any interest in me videotaping your set? I have these 90s video camcorders." He has an old RCA and an old Hitachi actual camcorder from the 90s.
Hell yeah.
So next thing you know, I was talking to this dude. I don't know if you guys know who Ryan Peter is, the Been There, Seen That. He's out of Windsor, Ontario.
No.
Okay, he does like small releases like of MySpace band stuff and
Okay.
just like a little label out there. But he's like a super fan of ours, and I mean that in a good way. Like he buys every single thing that we put out. He has like every
Hell
shirt.
yeah.
Like
Nice.
he's just the dude that's loved See Next Tuesday from the get-go. And every show that we've been in the within driving distance of Windsor, Ontario, he's come to since our getting back together. So anyway, I was kind of chit-chatting with him on the internet and mentioned this whole thing, and he was like, "You should put out some VHS tapes." I'm like, "Who the fuck's gonna buy VHS tapes, right?" So he was saying at that time, Heavy Lolo had just put out like a cassettes or VHS tapes of a set of theirs, but they didn't do it. They just videotaped it on normal cameras. So it
Okay.
was like a good quality that just happened to come out on cassette tapes or VHS tapes. And so we kind of ran with it. Ryan actually came out to the show in Pittsburgh, and Blake and him each filmed the set, and we recorded it with the microphones on the camcorders, and then we had a direct line from the PA, and we kind of blended the three audios together and
Nice.
created this like really cool. It sounds really cool. It definitely has a nostalgic vibe to it. Blake runs a company called Imperfect Videos, so that's like his whole shtick. So it's really cool. Like you can actually see the tape slowing down, and like the audio falls off every once in a while, and like it has all the glitches and stuff, and it looks like a bunch of filters and stuff, but it's not. It's just like these cameras are old, and it's old tape that it's being filmed onto, and
Yeah.
it has this cool thing to it. So anyway, we have Ryan kind of fronted the whole thing and is doing a release of it. We're announcing it tomorrow, which would be May 12th tomorrow at the time of recording. So yeah, that comes out June 2nd. So you said this might come out just after that then, yeah?
Yeah, I think it sounds about right. It's probably going to be around
Okay.
that time, but we'll make sure it comes out afterwards so it doesn't spoil any surprises.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we're announcing the whole thing tomorrow anyway.
Oh, okay, cool then. No worries.
Hell yeah.
What was the name of that label you mentioned? I want to give them a follow that releases the MySpace.
Yeah, Ben There. So BEEN There, THERE, Scene, SCENE, that. So Ben There, Seen That.
Clever. Cool. Okay, I'll give them a follow for sure.
Yeah, he's a nice dude. I've heard he's one of those dudes that's been around for a while, and like there's rumors out there, and some people don't like him, like if in certain groups. But overall, like he's been nothing but the nicest dude in the world to me. So we're happy to be putting it out with him. So
that's awesome. I gave Imperfect Video Productions a follow too, because that's kind of cool what he does. So I definitely want to follow along with that. That's interesting.
Yeah, Blake is really great, man. I think this is his like first venture
awesome.
Overall about it. But yeah, I know he's trying to get his feet wet and do some more of this type of stuff. But he's been just fucking great, man. Like he's definitely putting the work in and making this video super cool. So
very cool. So I have one more question for you before we wrap up, and it's a little bit of a on the spot one.
Oh no.
Nothing too serious, just a fun one. If you were trapped on a desert island and you could only bring with you 3 CDs to play on a solar-powered Discman until you were rescued, what would those 3 albums be?
Oh man.
And yeah, we're super aware that changes with depending on the day and time that you ask someone. It's all about mood when we ask this.
Yeah. Well, I'm like currently going through like the metaverse of my brain and being like, okay, what's gonna solve all emotional strife? You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, I'm gonna need something when I'm angry and I want to like punch shit and like just get my anger out, right? So I need at least one record that's really mad.
Mm-hmm.
And so one record that I could spin fucking anytime I want when I need to just get aggression out is Sickening Bliss by Regurgitate. Just pure grindcore from start to finish, and it's just fucking awesome. Then I'd probably need something for when I'm in a good mood or want to be in a good mood. So let me think here. I would probably have to say something by Wolfpack. Are you guys familiar with Wolfpack?
No.
Thrill of the Arts is probably my favorite record of theirs. That one just got some fucking jams on it. But so we would say I'd probably go with Thrill of the Arts by Wolfpack. Wolfpack is it's a Michigan band from a bunch of dudes from all over the United States. They all came to Michigan for school. They went to I think Michigan University or Central Michigan. I don't remember. Down in Ann Arbor, whichever one that is. Anyway, so they all met there and started a band, and it's kind of like this kind of techie funk stuff. I mean, they're all just like savants, so it's like they're all leaders in their instruments, and their bass player, Joe Dart, is just insane on the bass. Anyway, they all now have their own little groups and stuff too, but if you haven't listened to Wolfpack, it's spelled like VULFPECK.
Okay. And check
But
them out too.
yeah, Thrill of
Gotcha.
the
I'll
Art.
pick it up.
Anyway, the band got their popularity. They ended up doing a GoFundMe tour where they had people prepay for tickets, whatever they wanted to do, and they sold out these venues and did a tour that was all prepaid by people. I don't know if I 100% have that story right. I heard it third hand, but suffice it to say, I know they put the work in, and they're an incredible band. So
Interesting.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
And then I would probably have to say, lastly, I would need something, because if I'm on an island, I'm going to find some weed somewhere. So I'm going to need something to get me through the nights and when I want to think. So probably Tool's Anima. I think from start to finish, that's a record that makes your brain actually process something more than, just distorted guitars. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, for sure.
that's an
Yeah.
album that has just loads of emotion in it, and from start to finish, it just pulls you in so many directions.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Love Tool. Tool's a great band.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh,
They get a lot of
God.
hate for some reason. I don't really get it, but I like Tool.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone hate on them ever.
Oh, I know a lot of people, unfortunately.
I know
They
when their last album was released, I was like,
Oh.
I felt like I was like the meme of like all these like old dudes lining up at a fucking like Newberry Comics or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
Whatever. So what, man? I'm old. I'm a
Yeah.
lot. I'm 40. But no, like, dude, their last record came out and their vinyl had an LCD screen in it that when
I
you
remember
open
that.
it up had a fucking music video play. Like,
yeah, the CD does too.
what for all the haters, what have you put out?
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It just boils back to the same thing where it's like, why hate on someone's art?
I
You
feel
know what I
like
mean? Like,
a lot of the same people that hate on Tool hate on Pink Floyd and stuff, and it's just like people that can't wrap their head around long form songs that you have to invest in
yeah.
to appreciate.
And that's shitty too, because a lot of people will write off what they consider like old dad music
Oh,
and
dad
not
rock, I hate
realize
that term.
yeah, like I get, like it's not fucking Nickelback. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we're not
Right.
talking about
Dad
a band. Yeah, like that's different. Like I can't respect that. That's the one thing. But like,
Like I've heard deathcore is dad metal.
that's not true at all. That's not
I
true at
know.
all. Like
I know.
the people that listen to Lorna Shore are not the people in my age bracket. I'm
Yeah,
gonna be totally honest with you.
Yeah.
Like there
very
are
true.
some, like I listen to them, but like most people that are in their 40s
Not listening
are
to
not
deathcore.
are not listening to deathcore. No, they're listening to this. They're still listening to Clients. You know what I mean? They're still listening to Bosch records. They're
Yeah.
still listening to Dillinger Escape Plan records. They're listening to these broken up bands. That's what we're talking about earlier. It's like the nostalgia of it.
Right.
Bosch is
Yeah.
back together. Sawtooth Grin put out a record. We put out a record. It's like all these bands are just getting back together, and that's what people want, man. They want to hold on a memory of when they were, not sore every morning.
Right.
I actually really liked that Sawtooth Grin record, the new one. I thought it was great.
I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was every bit where they needed to be.
Yeah,
you know what I
completely.
mean? Like,
Yep.
it's the same thing with us. Like, I'm not going to rewrite Parasite. I'm not going to put out another Parasite ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just the same thing with them. Everyone
Yeah.
expected a cuddle monster, but everybody liked what they got.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like a lot of people wanted something different, I think, but overall good is so good that like you can't knock it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not Cuddle Monster, but it's fucking good. So yeah, I think they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and they named it appropriately.
Yeah.
So final thing, just to wrap up here, if people want to
Sure.
give you a follow on social media or buy the album or listen to the album, what are the best places to do that?
We're literally everywhere. So if you search CU, so like the letter C, the letter U, and then spell out Next Tuesday and then the word grind. So CU Next Tuesday grind. We have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Bandcamp and TikTok. You can find us on Spotify, Apple iTunes, or right on the Good Fight Music store. But yeah, go check out Distractions. It's our new record, and it was a huge pinnacle point in my life. So at least give it a listen once, even if you don't like it.
Well, and I think most people who appreciate grind will definitely like it. So they're in for a
Thank
treat.
you. I hope so. We definitely blast a whole shitload.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and taking the time to chat with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Honestly,
and again, I'm sorry my voice is like cracking like crazy. It's hard to even
That's no problem.
It was a battle. I feel weird. I'm sure listening back to this when you guys put it out and be like, oh my God, I sound like a child.
No, it sounds fine. It's not as bad as you think it is.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Well, thanks again for having me too, by the way.
Anytime. And for everyone listening at home, thanks for tuning in, and come back next week. We'll have another guest for you.